Almost 10 years ago, news broke that the terrorist group Boko Haram had kidnapped 300 schoolgirls in Nigeria. They were neither the first nor last taken, and for many, the whereabouts of these young women remains unknown. Journalist and filmmaker Melissa Fung could not look away from their stories. She told them in her 2021 documentary, Captive, and goes deeper still in her new book, Between Good and Evil, The Stolen Girls of Boko Haram. And that brings Melissa Fung back to our studio tonight. It's great to see you again.
Thanks again for having me,
Not
Steve.
at all. How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm good. I'm glad the book is finally coming out, and maybe I can now. Well, I can never move on from this story, but this is like, let's say, part 2 of the TVO documentary.
I know that about you. I mean, you and I don't know each other that well, but I know about you that you just can't move on when something like this preoccupies your life, right?
No, it's true, and I keep going back, and you know, who knows, in 10 years there could be a sequel to this book. It's like with Afghanistan.
Yeah.
You know, I keep going back and going back.
Well, let's not assume that everybody remembers this story, so we're going to do a little background here just to remind people. Boko Haram was what?
Boko Haram is a terror group in Nigeria. Their name, it translates roughly into Western education as forbidden. Haram is the word for forbidden. And they have basically wreaked terror across northeastern Nigeria and the Lake Chad area. So the neighboring Cameroon, Niger, have also kind of felt their reign of terror for the last almost 20 years now. And so, you know, you mentioned this off the top, their big kidnapping in 2014 of the 276 girls from Chibok sort of introduced the world to who they were, because that was a big thing. But what many of us didn't know was that they had been raising villages and kidnapping women and girls for many years before and many years since. And so, you know, the book is about some of those girls who we don't hear about, who are not part of that Chibok cohort that spawned the movement Bring Back Our Girls, which I'm sure you remember.
And, well, Michelle Obama holding that sign up, and
Kim Kardashian.
Kim Kardashian, well, okay, good for Kim, but you know, I think when the First Lady does it, it's, I was going to say more impactful, but then again, with Kim Kardashian, maybe not. What's the point for Boko Haram? Like, why do they kidnap women? What is that about?
They want to build, for lack of a better word, a caliphate, right? They are, you know, they base themselves sort of loosely on what the Taliban were doing in Afghanistan back in the 1990s, and actually what they're doing there now.
Again today.
And so they don't believe that girls should go to school. They don't believe in Western education. Their interpretation of Islam is very, very strict, very, very similar to the Taliban's ideology. And so they want to build for themselves a territory that where they're allowed to enact this kind of strict interpretation of their religion.
Here's you writing in the book. This is from Between Good and Evil. The word kidnap has been a trigger for me since late 2008, when I was taken at gunpoint by a similar band of armed men. Except that was in Afghanistan, not Nigeria. A hole in the ground in Wardak province, not the Sambisa forest in Borno State. Men sympathetic to the Taliban, not Boko Haram. But once a hostage, you become a hostage to your memories. And certain words become triggers that have you staring down the dark barrel into a place you have no desire to return to and no choice but to revisit. It is the dread that lurks in your subconscious, ready to pounce when you least expect it. Okay, Melissa, let's pick that apart a little bit. You have no desire to return to, but no choice but to revisit. Explain that contradiction, if you would.
It's, what happened to me is always going to be a part of me now. I've written about it. It has informed my journalism since it happened. But I can't help but go back to being held in a hole sometimes. You know, certain things trigger. And when I heard about Boko Haram and the Chibok kidnappings, it triggered my own memories that you don't want to remember. Of being held hostage, being kidnapped at gunpoint, you know, being driven miles and miles outside of, you know, where you are. And so, you know, you have no choice but to revisit those memories. And that's always part of trauma. And I think that's what I'm trying to say in this book, is that trauma leaves such a long trail. And, you know, for me, it's been 15 years almost. And there are still times, certain times of the year, like around Thanksgiving when I was kidnapped, I had these recurring nightmares. So it's like the body remembers, and you can't help but go back and revisit a place that you don't ever want to see again.
Do you ever have a day where you don't think about this?
Yeah, many days when I don't think about it, but I'm very preoccupied because I think of the trauma that, I carry. I see everything through a different lens than most people. And so, there are days when I don't think about it, but there are many days when I'm thinking about the girls in the book. There are many days when I'm working on helping women get out of Afghanistan. And that is all part of it. And so I might not be thinking about my own trauma, but it's other people's that come to mind.
Well, that's the distinction I wanted to make, because on the one hand, when you are triggered, you do suffer. But on the other hand, you can be triggered to do something. And obviously, through your work, you are trying to use that triggering in a constructive fashion to help other people. How's it going?
I have to admit, Steve, it's been a tough 2 years. In the middle of writing this book, Afghanistan fell back into Taliban power. And so I actually had to stop writing this book because I was so desperately working around the clock to help friends who were trying to get out of the country. And that work still isn't over. It's crazy that it's fallen to people like me who have no idea how to do this. But it's the book is delayed because I had to deal with that. And so, a long way to answer your question, no, it's not going that well. I don't have, there are days when I just feel like totally despairing about what's going on in the world.
We made commitments as a government, as a country, to people in those countries to be helpful. And we're not fulfilling those commitments. Do you know why?
I don't know why. It's a question I've asked a lot of people, and people in government. I mean, we were dealing with, Canadian Immigration and Refugee Canada, and talking to people about trying to get our Afghans on a list, get them a visa, get them sponsorship. I keep saying we purport to have a feminist foreign policy, And so every Afghan woman now should be able to apply for refugee and asylum because they are now under gender apartheid in their own country. And so you have countries like Denmark, Finland, and Sweden who have said this. Afghan women and girls are now eligible to apply for asylum in our countries because really they're being persecuted in their own. And I don't know why our country, which purports to have a feminist foreign policy, refuses to follow suit.
It doesn't purport to. It actually boasts about the fact. I mean, we hear cabinet ministers all the time boasting about, the prime minister as well, boasting about the fact that we have a feminist-based foreign policy. And yet you clearly don't see it here.
What good is a feminist-based foreign policy if you have a country where half of the population, women, are being subjugated and we're not doing anything about it?
That's a great question. Why
I don't know.
I know you've put that to people in positions of authority. What do you get back from them?
Nothing. Next time you have somebody on from the government, Steve, can you please ask on my behalf? Because
I'd be happy to.
I'm at a loss.
Okay, let's tell some of the stories of the people that you have met and told us about. Zara, for example. What do we need to know about her?
Zara, I always think that Zara had the most potential before she was taken by Boko Haram into the forest. She was doing very well in school. She had aspirations to be a doctor. And then after she came back from the forest, it all fell apart. And now, she's trying to do other things. And those dreams of education are more or less over. But she's putting a lot of hope into her young daughter that she brought back from the forest. So I think the dreams that died in her, she's now seeding in that little girl, Aisha.
And it's a very classic refugee/immigrant story, right? A sacrifice of one's own life in the hope that the next generation does better.
I know, and I'm saddest about Zara because I think she had the most potential, and we tried. My crew and I, supported them to go back. We found a boarding school in Yola that agreed to take them, but they were not keeping up in classes, and they were asked to leave. So we found another boarding school. Same thing happened. We got them a private tutor to try to help them, after classes. And I think I just had to realize that maybe that time has passed, that education, they're not thinking about that. They should have graduated years ago. So going back to grade 8, when you're 19 years old, it's very tough. And so now we're just trying to figure out what they want to do and hopefully, be able to help them on a new path.
Gambo, what's the story there?
Gambo, I say this in the book, and I said this in the film, and I'll keep saying it. In another life, she would be walking the runways of Paris. She is just strikingly beautiful and fiery. So out of all the girls, she was the one that wanted revenge the most. But that's not an option that's necessarily available to them. She's now, trying to find her path as well. Maybe doing some sales in her village.
Mama Boko Haram. Who is she?
She's, I think, one of the most interesting people I have met. She knew the founder, Muhammad Yusuf, of Boko Haram many years ago, and a lot of his acolytes, used to come around to her house for Sunday lunches. And so she saw herself as a go-between between the government and the terror groups, the members, because she could reach out directly to them and negotiate with them to release some girls, and she has. And I'm not sure if the government felt like she was interfering too much, but they arrested her on some trumped up charges of fraud. And she's sitting in a prison right now in Maiduguri.
How many women and/or girls are still missing?
That's a good question, Steve. Nobody really knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody really knows.
How many have been taken altogether? Do we know that?
Nobody really knows. But it's safe to say, I think the International Committee of the Red Cross estimated that there were at least 20,000 people still missing in northeastern Nigeria, and most of them are women and girls.
Canada and Nigeria have had diplomatic relations for a very long time. I think going on 60 years, I think over 60 years actually. Has Canada done anything with that relationship to be helpful in this case?
I don't think so. I think I've already said too much about the Canadian government and lack of action in Afghanistan, but I didn't come across anything that they were necessarily doing to try to help. At the time the Chibok girls were kidnapped, I think a lot of people wanted their governments to step in, and in the States, I know that they wanted the CIA to fly a drone over to see if they could find the girls. I don't know if anything, like that was explored in Ottawa, but I didn't, in my travels and reporting the book, I didn't come across any Canadian involvement.
There is, I take no joy in saying this, but there is untold misery in so much of the world today. There's beautiful stuff happening, but there's so much untold misery. And how would you make the case that these particular individuals are worthy of the attention of the world in a way that they have not been so far, but that they deserve to be going forward?
It's tricky. That's a tricky question for me because I'm shocked actually that this has not received more media attention. We mentioned the Bring Back Our Girls with the Chibok. That became an internet sort of sensation, a hashtag for a few weeks, and nobody really took the time to figure out what was going on. right? To figure out what the group was all about, what they were, how many other girls had been taken. And so I think when you have this kind of kidnapping and this kind of havoc wreaking on this scale in a part of the world, you know, it's incumbent on journalists to try to dig a little deeper. And so I don't necessarily think it deserves more attention, needs more attention than, say, you know, Ukrainian women being kidnapped by Russian soldiers or taken hostage, or Afghan women being subjugated now. But it is just something that it's a part of the world that I think doesn't get enough attention.
Well, you've kind of, with that answer, anticipated my follow-up question here, which is, you know, and I don't want anybody to misinterpret what I'm about to say here, because it's fabulous that the world has responded in the way it has to the plight of Ukrainian people and being helpful to trying to keep them safe or get them out temporarily, et cetera, et cetera. But it does raise questions about whether or not, at the end of the day, all politics is local. There is a very strong Ukrainian diaspora in Canada. They vote. There are people of Ukrainian background, including the finance minister of the country, the deputy prime minister, in our parliament. Not so much with Nigeria. And I wonder if that sort of lack of representation in the Canadian population is what holds this country back from getting more involved.
Possibly. I mean, I like to make the comparison between Ukrainian refugees and Afghan refugees, you know, because the government announced in August 2021 that it would accept 40,000 Afghans, which at the time we were all grateful and, you know, helping our friends and colleagues apply for those places. To date, I think, I should have checked before I came, but I think just over 30,000 Afghans have come. This is in 18 months, more than 18 months. The number of Ukrainians who've come since last January, it's over 200,000.
Which is
according
great.
to the government's own website,
Yeah.
which is great.
But it does indicate where the priority is.
Unfortunately, I think it does.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that, you know, we're not saying that Ukrainians don't deserve asylum given what's happening to their country, right? But, you know, some people, you know, including Human Rights Watch, would say that Canada has a two-tier refugee system.
Mm-hmm. Whose responsibility at the end of the day, you know, this is, like, the UN is the UN, but the UN doesn't have an army that it can send all over the place to free people, right? The UN is just a place where people do diplomacy and try to end famine and, you know, try to be peacekeepers and so on. So whose responsibility is it at the end of the day to solve these problems?
I don't know. I mean, I think it wouldn't hurt for our governments to be more involved in a humanitarian role. I know that they do that through the UN, but the UN is a complicated place and difficult to navigate. You know, for example, the government relies on the International Office of Migration, which is a UN agency, to bring refugees, right? And so there's more red tape sort of mired in that process. And so it has just fallen on to regular people, not just me, but the thousands of Canadians who've stepped up to sponsor Afghans and Ukrainians. You know, it just comes down to those of us who want to try to make a difference and try to help.
Well, that leads to my last question, which is, I mean, your reputation precedes you at this table and all over the place. You are, I mean, you're clearly one of the most committed and on-the-job journalists of anybody ever in this country's history.
Kind.
And I'm just telling it like it is. But I do wonder whether Melissa Fung ever gets a chance just to go lie on a beach and take it easy.
I do. I spend, I spend summers in Croatia. My husband has a house on the coast. I take my dog, I have a sweet rescue terrier named Sammy. I take him paddle boarding. You know, that's where I find peace. And I feel like that, you know, we all need that time. I'm not doing this 24/7. It does occupy big part of, you know, of my brain. But I need to be able to recharge to keep doing this kind of work.
I get it, because there's a lot of space between good and evil, as the title of the book suggests. Why'd you pick that title?
It was originally the title of the film, but our producers here at TVO, you know, thought a simpler, shorter title would be better for the film, so we kept it for the book.
Gotcha. It's so good to see you again. Keep on keeping on. And we are happy to remind people Between Good and Evil is out today. The Stolen Girls of Boko Haram. And of course, the documentary that you did with TVO not too long ago.
Thank you, Steve, for having me.
Thank you, and good to see you again.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.